Morning, Guy.
Morning, Joey.
How are you? How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
My wife is having a friend over at our place for a Reiki treatment. So I'm in the coffee shop in town. So there may be a
Oh,
bit of background noise. It's busy in here, but I've got my headphones, so hopefully it won't be too bad. You let me know if it's noisy.
sounds okay for now. Your wife is a Reiki healer?
She is, but today she's having a friend perform Reiki on her.
Oh, nice.
So I have my Reiki certification. I sort of took it because I wanted to understand energy healing better than I do. I have not done much with it myself. Anyway, I spent the weekend working on helping renovate a studio that my wife is opening. That's got two sides to it. One is energy and frequency healing. She's building a special um, uh, like a massage. She's taking a massage table and she's putting these transducers and speakers into it so she can pass these rife frequencies through people's bodies to heal them and all this crazy stuff, which I
Yeah,
think is the future of medicine, actually. I think Einstein actually said that the future of medicine is frequency.
yes, you are correct. And Einstein is the first that I know of that had he's been attributed to that particular quote. I've actually been looking. There's a few companies out there that manufacture those beds with the speakers already built in and what.
Yeah,
Not.
they're very expensive. So what we're doing
Yes,
is trying to do an end run and just, make the bed ourselves. And there's videos about how to do it. Actually, the person who we bought this bed from, or this massage table, it's a really solid old wood one, heavy as hell, which is kind of what you want. He had made his own, and we were wondering how to go about it. And my wife, at the time, my wife had this idea that she was going to put the speakers into the upholstery. Morning, Justin, welcome. We're just talking about sound frequency healing here. So
it's awesome. I've been doing a lot of music theory, and the instrument that I play is very much a sound healing instrument, the handpan.
Oh, yes.
oh wow, we have a small one. It's not an actual, oh wow, I'm so jealous. We have a little one that this guy makes. Hold on, play for a sec. Play us a few notes. I love the sound of those things. They're not cheap either.
No.
Yeah.
Justin, you're so cool.
Let's see. What should I play?
Oh, wow. amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
The only problem was, for some reason, my speakers or something to do with my computer, it was cutting out a little bit. But what I
Yeah, the
heard,
handheld
what I
does that
heard
because
was
the frequency is tough with microphones.
interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, I really, we have a small one that is actually a friend of ours, Mark, who makes them. He takes old propane tanks like you have for your barbecue,
Yeah.
and he turns them into something like that, except it's not bumps, it's little holes. It's amazing. I have a lot of fun with that.
Hmm.
Yeah, anyway, so we were, as I was saying, we went to buy this massage table from this guy, and we were thinking at the time that we had to put the speakers into the upholstery, and he set us right. I got underneath the table and I took pictures. He had these transducers screwed into the wood at the bottom of the table, which makes a lot more sense. And we got to try it. We lay on it, and he passed different kind of songs and things through us. It was very cool. So my wife is going to do that, and then she's a highly trained Pilates instructor. So the other half of the studio, she's going to teach yoga and Pilates and all that stuff. So hopefully
Nice.
make some money.
That's awesome.
So all right, let me see. I think I just saw a
Alex just
message.
messaged. Yeah, he just messaged on WhatsApp saying he'd be on in a few minutes.
All right. Well,
I told him we were being blessed by Justin serenading us. So
perfect. Okay, well, yeah, we can just wait for him. So I was just saying to Joey, Justin, that I'm just working in a coffee shop today. Morning, Alex.
there he is.
I was just
Yeah,
saying,
guys. Morning. How we doing?
Well,
good.
thank you. You.
I'm in a
I'm
coffee
gonna
shop.
make a smoothie, so don't mind me.
All right, well, I won't feel so bad about eating a banana and an orange in front of you guys this morning.
That sounds good. Don't, please don't.
I got to get back to the smoothies, man. My wife and I used to make those all the time. I find with those things, you kind of get in the habit of doing it, but then when you stop, you really stop.
Body at rest tends to stay at rest. Body in motion tends to stay in motion.
Exactly right. I'm the king of inertia. I'm
got
in
it all.
yoga. Look at this.
Got the hemp, got the chia, got the strawberry, got the blueberry, got the cacao,
Oh,
got
okay.
the collagen protein powder, got the peanut butter, or the almond butter, got the honey. It's the recipe.
You have to move up to Thrive All with me and Justin. We move in there. You're welcome. You can be the smoothie maker in the dining hall.
Yeah.
Alex's smoothie kitchen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it. Every day. Gotta do it.
Yeah, I got to get back into that for sure. I'm drinking too much coffee and back into toast and shit like that. It's no good at all. Although, take a look at my coffee mug.
Oh, that's
cool.
cool.
It's got a cork bottom. Oh, nice. Is that like
Instead of coffee, I just drink cacao.
I use the Creo brew myself. That's good stuff.
Sweet, nice.
Where do you get that?
It's online, either direct from their website or they have it on Amazon as well.
Can you send a picture of that to us in chat? Or actually, let me just hold it there. I'll take a picture.
Brew it in a French press every day, and then put the grounds in the smoothie, so you can eat the grounds after you drink
Hold on, I'm going to take a shot of that. My wife and I are hosting an ecstatic dance this week on Thursday night, and we've got a friend coming up from out of town to serve cacao.
Sweet, that's great.
Yeah, and she knows how to. She spent time in Latin America studying with the tribes, so she knows how to make it with all the spiritual ingredients. So it's a real like Mayan, authentic experience.
Love that.
All right. Well, now that we're all here, why don't we dive into the material? I'll just state up front, there's a couple of things I want to cover off from my end today. One is I will report back to the group a couple of my thoughts about what I'm going to do as my next move with dwellings. I also think we should remind ourselves what the next activity sheet is and not stray too far from that as well. I don't know if any of you had a chance to look at what I filled in with activity sheet number 2, but that I put everything into that I could think of. I haven't even looked yet at activity sheet number 3, excuse me, which I should have done for this meeting. But anyway, that's a big part of what I want to cover today. And I'd like to hear back from everyone as to whether they found, as I assume they did, that map that I created still rough, but if they found that useful, at least now we have something tangible to start working off of and building out. So
It's, yeah, it's a great starting point, and obviously a lot of work went into it, and thank you for that. My only thought is, I mean, if Dee Dee feels she wants to have that much population density, I guess, kind of go for it. It just seemed very densely populated to me, but that's
yeah,
also a personal taste.
yeah, I felt the same way. If it was me, I'd probably saw it off at about 100 maximum. The only thing that I would say about that map, as I think I mentioned before, is the way I did the solid color rectangles. It makes it look like a traditional suburban developer's map where each lot is this kind of fenced off standalone thing. But I think when it's actually all built out, what it's going to look like is little cabins in the forest and across cleared areas, because there may be the occasional fence, and I'm sure there'll be some hedgerows and that kind of stuff, but it's not like each one of those areas is going to be blocked off. So you probably wouldn't even be all that conscious when you're walking and you cross over your neighbor's property. So that's the one thing that, it'd be interesting to, if we could, I don't know if we can do this, but if we had that landscape technology where we could actually drop these house dwelling 3D icons and then do a kind of virtual tour of the property. That would be my wish, but I don't know if we're able to do that. But I think if we did that, we'd see it's not as bad as we think.
Yeah, and so I second both Joey and Guy's thoughts of like, it's really up to Dee Dee, like, is she comfortable developing all that land? And then 2, is it developable? Is some like marshy and swampy and just, there's that whole aspect. But then to build down your point, guys, so when I think about a half-acre lot, like I have a 0.2-acre lot, and then my backyard neighbor has a 0.2-acre lot, and that's 0.4 acres, and that's a lot. So like that's a big space. And so in my mind, every single one of those lots could either be really just truly like the natural forest and they just built in and didn't change much, or a thriving food forest. You can fit a lot of berries and nut trees and fruit trees in that lot. So I do agree. And I think, to me, like, we have to do that to grow food. Like, we have to utilize that space for food forests. So even though the map does look suburbia, I agree that it would look a lot more beautiful, thriving forestry in practice. And then since the goats are hardy and they can eat shrubs and bushes and stuff, I'm kind of envisioning the goats living in a barn, but whoever like the goat manager is, that they can just
Free range.
take them around and like trim this guy's yard. Like in the spring and fall, everyone's yard is like a little pasture for the goats, and we take turns on what the goats eat.
Very good.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I would highly suggest a couple of things. One to Dee Dee. Like one of the HOA rules, to be honest, Guy, would be no fences. So that again, sort of that free range idea. I know last year I was down in Puerto Rico, not a little over a year ago, and it was really cool because the Airbnb house that we stayed in, 3 houses down was a guy that had a herd of goats, and it was free range through there, and it was, going out in the morning and having a cup of coffee, and the goats would come out and just be kind of grazing all about. It was very, very soothing and relaxing even, so, you had mentioned that where, there's, I'm demographically, I guess, I'm sort of thinking that a lot of the folks that are going to buy into the community are going to be, I don't want to say elderly, that's not the word I'm looking for, but I'm going to say more well established financially in life, which kind of indicates they're probably going to be at least maybe into their mid 40s and perhaps older. And I would think that they would want to have a circumstance where they were able to live off the bounty of the entire, property, as opposed to everybody having my little space, if you will.
Right. I agree. Yeah. Dee Dee has promoting the idea of Ubuntu, that philosophy. And when we do our film or slide presentation, we're going to have a slide or two about Ubuntu and how that's going to. And I think your way of describing that when we start developing the script, I think we need to explicitly state that there, unless there's some particular reason to have a fence somewhere for some very special reason, like, I don't know, maybe
Yeah,
there'll be some reasons,
yeah,
but
to keep wildlife away from, a garden area of some sort or something of that nature, but
yeah, generally,
not
I agree.
fences to make good neighbors.
Right. Yeah, that's excellent. I think when we'll have to find a way when we make the final slide presentation to convey this idea that, and maybe we can do it visually, we can show the layout of the lots, but then we can say, in case you think that this is going to look like a subdivision with all these separate lawns and things, what we can do is cut to a map that only shows the dwellings, which will, in a bright color. So it'll be clear that they're very small footprint compared to the overall property. And then what I'll do, this will be very easy for me where I live, is I'll go out to some areas right around where I live that look like what we're talking about, where there is literally a little cabin surrounded by forest. There are a couple of little cabins. I'll take a whole bunch of pictures of stuff like that, and I'll say, this is what it's going to look like. And that we'll just make it really clear to people what it is. And as part of what I'm doing with dwellings, I'm going to put together some pictures, some of which will be renderings of very imaginative of what like a cluster of dome homes might look like, or like the vibe of these alternative houses. Some of them will be cabins, some of them will be tiny homes on wheels and that kind of stuff. So we can visually convey what this is going to look like. And so it's very clear that it's still primarily going to look like almost virgin forest. There'll be a little bit more clearing done because in places it's dense. But Alex was right. There's no reason that you couldn't have somebody situate their dwelling and leave the rest of the land as virgin forest if they wanted to. So
my suggestion, I've been thinking about this, and especially I just actually went through the herbalism segment of our bigger class earlier this morning, and I was thinking about the different plants and things like that, medicinal plants that they were discussing, and using your word subdivision, if you will, maybe taking certain sections, and I'm no expert in the plant part of this, so hopefully I'm going to convey this well, but one section might be I don't know, completely all of the yards are going to ground cover of clover, just for the sake of conversation, and then another section with a ground cover of something different. And irrespective of how unique each of the homes might be within a particular section, the topography or the ground cover and different things like that. And so one section might have clover as a ground cover, and maybe apple trees and pear trees in that section. And then another section might have a different ground cover with some sort of other, so kind of having groupings of the food forest parts together in their various areas, and subdivide the property in that manner, as opposed to, by housing type or whatever. And then the other suggestion was, and I hate to throw more work at Guy and Alex when I make this suggestion, but taking that map with the graph and blowing up just a certain segment of it. So let's make a quarter acre plot, maybe, I don't know, 10 by 10 in squares or something like that. And then you could put your house in there sort of to scale as far as the amount of square footage it would take up. And we could do a rendering like, here's our overall map that we've developed so far. And then here's a Google Earth zoom in of what one or maybe four contiguous lots, what it would look like when you really zoom in on it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I like that.
I was kind of on the same wavelength for both of those, Joey. So both those ideas, like I can definitely just zoom in on like one lot to show, hey, here's a beautiful food forest and examples, and here's the tree guild that we'll use for this, the plant guild. And then to your first point, I totally agree. Where I think the vision could be, like what your land has to be productive, basically, and there's different ways to do that. So some people will have a 7-layer food forest. Some people will, if they want to keep it truly like as native natural as possible, okay, then just cultivate mushrooms there, and maybe bumblebee farming or something. And then another person might have more open space, and that'll be better for goat pasture, and herbs and stuff. So yeah, I think there's different ways, but everyone's land will have to be productive. And then with the Ubuntu concept, it doesn't necessarily, the one person might not be the one harvesting the fruit on their land, but their land is still being productive, and someone else in the community is harvesting the fruit on that land.
So to go on that idea, I love that idea. What do we think about the idea of like shared greenhouses that aren't just on like the one? Because I think that we had one zone where we were going to have one greenhouse or maybe a couple greenhouses and the indoor food forest, right? But like, do we want to also account for greenhouses that are more close to residential areas where like, you could have one lot in every 20 or something where there's an opportunity to grow, or kind of just bouncing this idea around only because I know that the soil might not be like great for like a 7-layer food forest on all of the residential lots, right? So just like thinking about like
you could have lots of little greenhouses, and inside the greenhouse you have raised bed gardens.
yeah,
So you get some 2x4 type lumber.
yeah.
I've seen these before. I'm sure you have as well. And you bring in the soil. Now we
Right.
can, if we end up using the manure from the whole community and from the animals, and we put that through a excuse me a biodigester of some sort,
Yeah.
then we'll be pulling some electricity off of it, but we will also be developing this kind of rich compost material. Now, I have a background in this. For 25 years, I edited a magazine called Solid Waste and Recycling. And one thing we'll have to be mindful of, and we can make up our own rules. Generally, they don't like to take human waste and put it directly on soil that goes into crops because of the concerns about toxins, pharmaceutical products, and so on.
Right.
But it is used as a soil amendment, whatever that means. So maybe there's a way to sterilize the manure so that it ends up becoming a soil substrate that could be used for food growing, because I think we do need to build up the soil in certain areas. So
Yeah.
if you want to design that into it, just you need to address how we're going to make sure that the soil is not contaminated by those kinds of things.
Cool. All right, I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah. Okay, I like that idea a lot. Yeah, so, well, whoever's doing the food, the energy, the waste, you're gonna have to work together to think of, envision how many of these kinds of growing operations can fit in, because I think we need to grow a lot of food. You know, when you walk those lands and you see those maple trees and things, that's not that existing forest is not going to feed a community. I'll tell you, we're going to have to do a
If you
lot.
want, we can pull up if we want to use the time to just take a quick stab. I did start that Excel sheet, and just like based on how many pounds of food I think we need per year, and then just started to map out like how
Okay.
many pounds I think we can get from goats
Sure.
and
Sure.
wild game and fish and okay, cool. My one big shocker was holy crap, goats can produce a lot of milk.
Yes,
Really, eh? Wow.
goats I think are far better
Five
than
pounds a
sheep.
day. Like I saw some reports they were even more than that, but I went conservative and did 5 pounds a day based on like some of the lower.
I've got
Now,
a
what I
good
don't know
friend
is
who's
like how many that.
sorry, just one sec. I have a
Okay.
good friend, Angie, who's a goat herder. She has a whole herd and she uses them for goat therapy, and people bring their autistic kids
Excuse me.
and the
Sorry.
goats jump on them and all this kind of stuff. If you want to talk to an actual goat herder and get some information, I'll fix you up with her. And
I'd
she's a
love
good
to.
friend of mine.
Yeah,
She'd be happy to talk to you.
I'd love to because I identified like a breed, and then but again, I'd love to talk to someone who's actually done it. Like this is just
You know
So
what?
if
Why
you
don't
wanted to save
I'll put that
Enables,
in the chat right now. I'll give you her contact info. And then after our meeting, I'll send her an email saying you might call her at some point.
cool. And if you
She's
want to enable screen sharing, I can share the
and she's a super. Oh yeah,
document.
sorry. And she's a super awake person, and she's looking at buying the land she's on now in order to create a possible intentional community. So she's on the same page as us with everything.
Cool. All right.
Okay, you should be able to share the screen
So I'm
now.
only on one screen, so I'm not gonna. You guys might have to look at it yourself, but
Oh, there we
um,
see. Oh, I see.
so this was just an initial stab. I did 2 pounds of food per day for adults, 200 adults, 3/4 of a pound of food per day for kids, about 160,000 pounds of food per year. With a 20 goat herd, which by all means we could do more, but I figured, yeah, I started with 20 just because I don't know how much work it is to have a lot of goats. And if you get too many, is it crazy? But basically assume 20 goats, then there's like 10 couples, they each have one child per year. So that's 10 kids per year, 5 male, 5
No,
female.
Alex, I have to stop you right there. We can't eat the children, okay? We've already been over this. The goats is one thing, but as a former vegan, I stop at children. Sorry, go ahead.
So I thought it was, yeah. So I mean, yeah. Anyway, the females we milk, the guys I was thinking we eat after 1 year. So give them a year. I don't know. But goats are pregnant for it's like a 305-day cycle where they lactate, so about 10 months out of the year. Now, what I don't know is how much of that milk needs to go to their baby goat.
Yeah.
So this number would assume it goes all to humans. So I got to figure that out. I got to verify like how many pounds of milk per day can we actually get, and then also we use some of this goat milk for probably like hand soaps and or just soaps and stuff like that. So there's other uses, but with only 10 goats a year at 5 pounds a day, that's 16,000 pounds of goat milk a year.
Wow.
So that's only 10 goats. And I think so anyway, this was kind of my first stab, but basically that's a good chunk. And then the fruit trees, and I started with 50 food forest guilds, which we talked about more than 50 half-acre lots, but conservatively, I thought maybe 50 could be good for growing, and then an average standard fruit tree can make 400 pounds of fruit a year, which is crazy. So like this would be, 5 years into the fruit tree. Like this isn't like from day one our yield, but I did 150 pounds for dwarf fruit tree, 400 pounds for standard size. If we can get 50 food forest guilds and 4 fruit trees per guild, 2 standard, 2 dwarf, that's 55,000 pounds of food. So that's a big contributor. And anyway, you guys can just look at the rest of the stuff here if you want to just take a second to digest. But I haven't added in the greenhouses yet, and we were a little bit over half of our food theoretically from hunting, goats, eggs, and fruit, berries, and nuts.
Sounds good.
It's all theoretical, but this is the first tab.
No, as a first stab, I think that's really good. You're on the right path. This is what the teachers are going to want to see. They're going to want to see that we crunch the numbers, that we found species that will survive and thrive in that environment. I know blueberries do very well up here.
Perfect.
We could probably get a lot out of berries. You have to see how well. I know apple trees can flourish in this environment. They're pretty hardy, certain species of them. You'll have to see whether cherry trees or other ones, how they do here. Maybe some of those could even be in greenhouses too.
Yeah. Yeah, cool.
Okay.
So I guess my main questions is, do we think 50's a reasonable amount if there's going to be like 100 or so dwellings? Do we think we can probably count on at least 50 to make food forests? And this could be our zone 4 too. This could be areas that are on the map and not cultivated, but from there,
Yeah.
I was just going to keep spacing out what I thought was reasonable.
Yeah, I think that's about right. I don't think we can say 100% of them will
Yeah,
have
okay.
food forests, but I think 50's.
And
I think we should go conservative on all of this stuff, see what
Yeah.
it generates, and then we'll have to know that we'll have to produce some goods for exchange with other communities that are producing things that we're not able to produce.
Yeah.
Hey, Alex and guys, just I've been listening, but I've also been Googling a second here. I just Googled how much does 1 gallon of goat milk weigh? And according to Google, a gallon of goat milk weighs 8.8 pounds. So
Isn't that nuts?
doing that math, your 15,860 pounds of goat milk translates to basically 1,800 gallons of goat milk per year. So if you took that and divided that by 100 families, that'd be 180 gallons of goat milk. So I think you're probably right in the ballpark as far as the production amount you came up with.
Listen, I think you should raise the number to 20 at least. Because
20
if we
female goats, so a goat herd of 40.
Yeah, because if we generate surplus
milk.
goat milk, then that's stuff that we can exchange with neighboring communities.
Butter, cream, ice cream, soaps, cheeses. We can do all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, this is great. That's amazing.
Cool. Okay. And then yeah, I love that. Thanks, Joey. Yeah, I was shocked at and I saw some reports saying a goat could make 2 gallons a day. And this isn't even assuming 1 gallon. So I might ask in class, I'll talk to your goat farmer too, guy, but I need to get more clarity on what can we actually produce out of a goat. But
yeah,
it depends on the
know.
variety of goat. Different goats have. When we had the class on farm animals several weeks back, I chose goats and I did a fair amount of research on 10 different species, I guess. I don't know, or types of goat. So some are much more prolific than others, for sure.
I did choose a
if you-
small to medium size, just thinking that it could get kind of crazy if there's huge goats running around.
I shared in the chat, I shared Angie's contact info, so you can copy that.
Perfect.
And
Thanks.
I'll send her a note saying that you'll be contacting her at some point. She's a great gal. Okay, one other comment on food. Make sure you have an apiary in there, like a honey production, and
Yes, honey.
also maple syrup, because we can tap those trees. I think I think in that email, I even sent a picture of some maple syrup being harvested in the area. I was out for a walk and saw these two metal buckets
Love it.
hanging off the thing. And in fact, you'd be amused to know we're building this studio for my wife in Sundridge, which is about 40 minutes from where we are right now. And the local building center sells all this. They have a whole section just on maple syrup making equipment and these special steel table looking things that they process the stuff in. So it's a big business up here. A lot of people do it in their own backyard kind of operation. So I'll send you some pictures of that stuff. It was kind of interesting. Sort of validates that this area is a natural area for that. And we do have quite a large maple stand on the north part of the property, and lots of maples in the south too. So
Love it.
One thing that and maybe I missed it, but have we still got any sort of statistics, if you will, on what the yield from this vertical farming operation that Angela is proposing, what the annual production is going to be, what the footprint is that it's going to take up on the property?
no, this is a problem. I'm going to make a note here to contact Dee Dee. It's a bit of a black box. So
Love to know.
I'm going to say contact Dee Dee regarding indoor vertical farm. I'm going to try, she like, it's a proprietary technology, so she doesn't want to necessarily share, the Colonel Sanders' secret recipe, but I'm going to say to her, look, we need at least some basic information about what
as
to
much
expect.
as with Justin's idea about shared greenhouses among neighborhoods, I'll call them, there that may be redundancy, that we don't need those if this vertical farm is going to produce enough to feed the entire community, plus have excess to be able to sell and barter with. So
Well, I'd say we should include one indoor vertical farm operation for sure, because we know she's going to do it.
right.
But yeah, I'll try and get some more information about what she thinks this thing might produce at the scale that she's envisioning it at. And we'll just work from there. Because I think even the greenhouses, given the climate up here and everything, there'll be so much they can produce, but we'll just have to see what else this can contribute. That's all I'll say about it at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wanted to go ahead.
Go ahead. No,
I was just going to update the group. Are we done with food for now? Or do you want to, is there more to discuss?
Yeah, that's fine. Just as people keep digesting it, just think in mind, like I said, 50 deer a year we'll harvest. I don't know if we have a bunch of hunters, maybe we could do way more. I said 500 fish. So just, if you guys take a look, feel free to share thoughts, but I just spitballed what I thought would be reasonable to start. So
Okay, excellent. I was talking to a buddy of mine who does podcasts, and he just interviewed somebody or a couple, I guess. They have a community somewhere in the Bruce Peninsula, and it's very much like what we're designing, although in that case, it's more of a farm type property. It's called Thornbury Acres, and they have a website, I think, that we can look at. I'm going to contact those people and interview them, and I'm going to try to get notes on how anything I can find that could be of use to us. But what they're doing is they bought I don't know, they have some large property, like say 120 acres. And they've got a bunch of families that have purchased shares in the operation. And what I'm envisioning is that they're in tiny homes or whatever, and they're sharing this land, very much like what we're designing. So there may be some things I can learn from them. One of the ideas they had that I thought was interesting is they have two people that they've hired. One is a farmer, and the other paid position is some sort of soil scientist. Anyway, I'm not saying we necessarily have to hire somebody, but I think what we need to think of with the Ubuntu contribution kind of economy is we need to make sure that at least one of the residents is a farmer that can go around to each